Hello there and welcome to GPs with Kevin Magee. Scotty and I today, come in Scotty, I reckon we might have to have a bit of a debate about what penalties. We won't be judge, jury and prosecutor, just discuss what's happening in MotoGP especially.
Well, mate, the rules, good. Thanks for having me, Kev. The rules are ridiculous at the moment, although I see that there's change coming. I do get that, so they're going to be commended for that, the people who make those decisions. But the rules at the moment, Martin made that long lap look fucking stupid the other day, mate. Like, that was just ridiculous. Like, you're flouting the rules. And I know there's ways to get around certain things, but that was just silly. No real penalty lost. It was just like he was going a touch wide on one of the bends. So it just looks silly, and they need to address it, mate. And I think you and I were talking earlier in the week about what really should happen as far as that pit lane. You can discuss that now, mate.
Yeah, I think just go back to the old, a ride through pit lane. If there needs to be an extra time penalty, they stop at the end of pit lane and are held there by the marshals until they're released back into the race, safely, obviously. And the pit lane ride through, I think, would be safer because the pit lane exit and the pit lane entry is used all of the weekend during a live track. So the thing that sometimes can be a bit worrying is that the long lap penalty is usually on the outside of a corner. So a rider could crash while the rider's going through the long lap and his bike might, go and knock the other guy off who's on the long lap penalty. So I think there's an inherent danger there that doesn't really need to be there. So I just think go back to keep it simple. Stupid, not calling anybody stupid, just the saying. And, I think a penalty through pit lane would be possibly more appropriate, but I'm just suggesting this to sort of put it up there for debate.
Yeah, no, and I 100% agree with you, mate. And if you were to go over, you obviously got those pit limiters on there. So if you were to go over, a kilometre over, well, you're going to have to come back and do your whole lap again, you ride through again. And I think that'd, sort of curve the enthusiasm, with racing through the pits, much like the Formula Ones have to do. How long is the pit lane, mate, do you think?
Oh, it sort of depends, That'd be a bit like the long lap penalties themselves. They're differing in the time it takes to execute the, pit lane from the speed limit to where you release back to racing speed. So that's going to be different for pretty much every track. I think the other thing, the difficulty with that would be that the pit lane would have to be closed to any pedestrian traffic while the penalties are, carried out. So that'd be something else that would be sort of somewhat difficult because the team members will be running backwards and forwards to the pits a little bit, at least crossing pit lane. So they'd have to have some system in place to completely shut any pedestrian traffic while the penalty's carried out, yes.
Yeah, so look, it seems that since Martin took out a lot of the championship contenders a couple of weeks ago, that they're actually sitting down and they're looking at the rule books and they've made a few changes. At long last, they're getting rid of a lot of that excessive junk that the bikes that are on the bikes at the moment, with the whole shot devices. That comes into effect immediately as of next round in Assen. And, so at this stage, the riders may have to start and ride the bikes themselves, mate. That could be a big eye-opener for them.
Yeah, well, I think that's more like real life, being X500cc four-cylinder two-stroke rider, where I used to say to Christopher Mullen on the box all the time that, mate, was better when we had coils, carburetors and kill switches. That's all you did. You did a plug chop at the end of the session, so you're flat out in top gear or fifth gear, full throttle, wide open, and simultaneously chop the throttle, pull in the clutch and hit the kill switch all together. And then you get back to the pits. One of the mechanics, Paul Tracy, used to come and push me back on the Yamaha's YFM 80, our little pit four-wheeler. And Mike Sinclair and the boys pull the plugs out. They read the colour of the plugs and deciding on what jets to put in it. And interestingly enough, I learned that they used to put one size bigger in the cylinder that had the clutch next to it because it used to get slightly hotter, so it needed a little bit more fuel to cool it. That was just one out of the 4 cylinders needed more fuel. So that was interesting itself. And it was old, it's like craftsmanship's not the right word, but that the black magic of tuning a 2-stroke Grand Prix machine.
Yeah, mate,
Oh, and I
easy
was
days.
also going to say, it was a bit like Formula One years ago when they had the active suspension and they ended up banning it. That was one sort of comparison I thought of too.
Now on to Brno, mate. We had the sprint race, which Bagnaia won, and Ogura was second, and Marc Márquez was third. And then we go to the GP on the Sunday, and the roles were reversed with Marc Márquez taking the spoils, Ogura second, and Bagnaia was third. What do you think about that race?
Yeah, it was interesting because we thought Marquez was a bit under par, but he showed him what for, and it's great to see Bagnaia back with a strong hold too in a sprint race. And Ogura, just 2 solid seconds, I think it's perfect. And he's the guy on the rise. He's who all the championship contenders have got to watch out for. What is he? He's on 134 points, so he's 46 behind Bezzecchi on 180. So I'd have to say the championship's still wide open for the top 5, 6. Bagnaia's 147 points. He's 53 off the lead. So, there's still a long, long way to go in this.
Well, the Ducatis are starting to bounce back, mate. When you've got a first and third and fourth, the Ducatis are right there. Honda in on fifth. So
yeah, and they've struck back in the constructors too. They're only 5 points off Aprilia, so it's all happening at the top of the championships. And just for the teams, Aprilia have still got that really well covered with an 85-point lead over the factory Ducati boys.
Yeah, now Bezzecchi, mate, bit over the top. I think the punishment fit the crime, did fit the crime. Mate, you can't go over and do that to a marshal. The marshals are there just to help out. They don't know that, if they're going to lift the bike up and you could hear the bike revving, their job is to shut everything down, make safe. And to have a little bloke run over, a little Italian run over and slap you in the face, I mean, I would have belted the fuck out of him, mate. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm sure you would have. The Speedway's a bit rougher around the edges than MotoGP. Anyway, I think Bez lost it because he thought he was going to lose an engine because when the marshal went to pick it up, he rolled the throttle on and the thing's laying on its side. I'm not sure how the lubrication system works, whether they're picking up oil still while they're on the side through a dry sump arrangement or not getting any fluid through the veins at all, and it's going to destroy that engine just right in that moment. And I feel that's probably why Bezzecchi just lost control, really, and that's what he did. He just lost control.
Yeah, well, that or you're looking at your championship start to fade away, mate.
Well, that's very true. He's probably doing that as well.
It was only a few weeks ago, mate, we were saying no, he was just unbeatable, uncatchable. All right, he's had a few problems not go his way. A few scenarios that didn't go his way as far as his teammate taking him out. I think in another race there was also his teammate, not Martin, but another Aprilia. But mate, he's got that's got to be a big mental thing to get over. When especially somebody like Marc Márquez coming for you, mate, I'd be petrified. Mate, this kid could turn anything around,
Well, he's only 40 points down. You can get 37 on a weekend. So he's taken a couple of massive bites out of Bezzecchi's championship lead. Unfortunately, Bezzecchi, through different circumstances, whether he was taken out or whether he took himself out, whatever the case. But the case in point is Márquez, if he can pick up maximum of 37 points a couple of times, he's going to be well and truly in the game. We're not even halfway into the 22 rounds yet, so we've still got hell of a long way to go. And not mention the flyaway rounds at the end of the year, which usually introduces some kind of weather conditions. all that kind of thing. Many variables in the flyaways, and you're jumping from country to country, week in, week out.
Now, Bezecchi and Aprilia had a more favourable test sessions on the 850s the following day. So that could have boosted his or the morale of the team anyway, mate. Looking ahead to next year, obviously we've had a couple of changes since we spoke last, with Acosta coming across to Ducati, which I think that'll be a fantastic prospect to see those two go at it. I think Acosta will learn a lot from Marc Márquez. Not that he'll be showing him the way, but because he's got a few battles left in him yet. But I just think that's really good placement, mate.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's going to be interesting to see how the relationship, if you want, of the teammates Acosta and Marc Márquez prosper or completely disintegrate like Lorenzo and Rossi did years ago when they had the wall up between the pits and etc. We all know that story. So, it's just going to be interesting to see how they go on side by side in a team fighting for the MotoGP World Championship. We can assume that'll be the case, that they'll be fighting for the championship.
And Marquez has only just re-signed with Ducati too, so that takes him through probably to the end of his career. Hopefully, he'll stay with Ducati. Pretty well centred there now. He's doing everything he can possibly do to get him back to the top. So why would you let him go?
Yeah, exactly. Well, if Ducati let Marc Márquez go, then somebody else is going to pick another manufacturer. A rival manufacturer is going to pick up Marc Márquez and all his talents, and Ducati don't want to be fighting someone like Marc Márquez. They need him under their roof.
Yeah, now, mate. So what do you think about the rule changes as far as the whole shot and the height adjustment on the bikes being gone for this next round for Assen, and then there's a big turnaround in Germany. I think the grid positions changed for Germany. It's gone from like a 9 metre starting grid to a 12 metre. So you've got a bit of room there. I don't know whether that's a great thing because of the speeds you'll be actually encountering into that first turn, but obviously they know better than me. But they seem to be doing a lot to try to counteract Martin's crash. Now, with that height thing taken off the bike, because I watched that crash a few times with Martin, and it just looked like something happened. The bike reared at the back. I mean, I don't think he'd get that. He'd be using his back brake as well as the front. But it just seemed like something needed to be done there, mate. And hopefully getting something like that taken off the bike will be a bit easier for the riders.
Yeah, exactly. And we see the case where sometimes those whole shot devices or the rear ride height for the acceleration out of corners, they can stick on or off and, not undo themselves automatically like they're supposed to when the riders hit the front brake for the whole shot device. They've got to hit it hard enough at the first corner for it to release that whole shot device. So it's a mechanical thing and things can go wrong. So I think all the better and without the devices, and the riders have got to ride the bike much more. As far as the grid goes, I believe they've done that, widening out the spaces in the grid from 9 to 12 metres is to make it less congestion in the first corner of the race, so that the riders are actually further apart when they arrive there, which can only be a better thing. And as far as Martin coming down the inside like that, when those carbon brakes reach the temperature, they really bite, like compared to the ones Rainey and I used back in the late 80s. I think when Wayne won his first Grand Prix at Donington in early 88, well, was actually mid because it was a weekend after the 8 hour, so it was early August. I think that was the first 500cc race won with the AP carbon Lockheed brakes. So they used to take a long time to get up to temperature and then become really bitey, and I think that's what's happened. I rode the Kawasaki in 2006 at Valencia, way more developed, the carbon front brakes, much more usable sort of temperature area. But I think in that first corner with Martin, it's reached the operating temperature where the carbon really starts to bite. Because they just feel like wooden blocks when they're not up to temperature, and when they trip over that temperature, they really do come on. And I think that might have been partly what happened to Martin as well.
Yeah, right. Now going forward to Assen, mate. What are your thoughts about that track?
Love it.
Yeah, very fast flowing track.
Well, the old school, that tray behind me is there from the ACU back in the Auto Cycle Union days.
I thought that was Jenny's serving tray. All right, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, she'll punch me for that.
Yeah, so I got my first points over there, but back in those days, it was a really tricky track because it had a crown on it. It was relatively skinny. It was a lot longer and a lot faster overall. So especially out the first half of the lap, and that's where Mick Doohan come to grief in '92 there, mid-year, when he had that massive lead in the championship. It only lost by a couple of points at the end of the year when he come back. Might have been Brazil or somewhere like that. I don't know, Argentina. Haven't looked any of that up, but he only just lost the championship to Wayne Rainey by a couple of points, 3 points, I think it might have been, after missing literally the second half of the season except the last race. Anyway, back to Assen. It's a great track. So John Thompson from the Auto Cycle Union gave me that tray over my shoulder, engraved about getting my first 500cc Grand Prix championship points, and was important because that gave me a automatic qualification to every Grand Prix the next year, and it worked. So that was in Assen 87, so I was right for 88 in my first full-time year. And Assen is a brilliant track. It's so flowing. Sorry to cut you off, Scotty, but it's so flowing. The way they've modified it with the first half, completely disagree with that, but anyway, that's progress, apparently.
No, is that how it worked back then? You'd have to actually garnish some points, much like the golf the PGA does now.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, you could still get your license without the points, but you didn't have to actually be in the qualifying time every Grand Prix you went to.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. See, you learn something every day, mate, talking to you, which is weird. Now, mate, something I'm really worried about is this Adelaide Grand Prix. I've seen the layout of the track. You've ridden it on a 500. Mate, they're just not going to get it ready in time. There's going to be a bunch of court dates, and that takes time in itself. And now I see the Victorian government is screaming about the millions that they've lost in now World Superbikes going to the Bend. Look, World Superbike people are more like campers, so I think Tail and Bend won't be that hard on them because they're more like a camping crowd. Whereas
what you mean there is they're less precious than the MotoGP crowd.
I think so, mate. Yes, I think so. They're just a better people. No, but I just think that only because they've got no infrastructure in town, really, in Murray Bridge being the closest place for the crowds that they would get. But I'm now worried that if that doesn't happen in Adelaide, the MotoGP will probably end up out at Tail and Bend. That's the only other place they could go from there, isn't it?
Well, that's really the only option. McNamara Park, no, you couldn't get a MotoGP bike around there. I mean, you could, but it'd be very interesting. Love Mac Park, brilliant place down in Mount Gambier, and a great town on top of that. But no, literally the Bend is really the only place that you could run it at if they don't get the street circuit up and running, which it's going to be big, and it's copping opposition already about the trees removal and et cetera, et cetera. I guess most of us have seen some of that.
The runoffs, mate. The runoffs, like there's just not enough room. There's a runoff there, but there's a massive willow tree sitting in the middle of it. I mean, you can't. No, we're not cutting that down. You just have to crash around it. It's ludicrous there, mate. And you got the greenies and whoever else there fighting it in court, and these things take time. And the trouble is, nothing has been started on the track yet, mate. They I don't know whether they're going to go for resealing. They'll probably have to re-asphalt the whole track. runoff areas and whatnot to be built. I know Formula One does it down at Albert Park every year, but that was sort of set up as a racetrack way before, and they were able to just utilise certain things, whereas this hasn't been. It's. I know you rode around there, but for what reason did you ride around there?
It was the Adelaide Motorsport Festival, and it was on part of the original track, and it was shortened up. We didn't have the big long straight that the supercars have and all that. So, the parts of it that I rode certainly would have to be resurfaced for MotoGP. So they'll basically need to start with a clean sheet and go from there. But it's going to be a big job to get all that underway and done and dusted, inspected prior to the Grand Prix in 2027. It's got to be all finished and fixed. Like we've seen this happen before. Where was it? Sweden, I think, a few years back. The same sort of thing happened, but the track wasn't quite ready. So there's a lot to be done. That's all I can say.
And, I see the tourism minister, crying in a serial there about losing the the Grand Prix and now the World Superbike Championship. Well, a little bit too late, Lovey. I mean, you had all the time in the world to put this together, build new sheds, do whatever the infrastructure needed to be. Like the trouble with Phillip Island, the local pub burnt to the ground as well, which that makes it a bit hard. So you're still, 30 or 40 minutes away from, the infrastructure there, but people were able to do that. There was never any complaints about it. But anyway, this is what happens, mate, when you sit on your hands and let something just erode over a 20-year period,
Yeah, well, that's true. And a lot of the European infrastructures, I was looking at the pits and that at Brno, and, obviously they've improved greatly since we were there in the late 80s. And Phillip Island hasn't, from MotoGP's point of view, kept up with the facilities and developed them more enough. They've been complaining about it for years. That's when I think they widened pit lane and they changed the pit exit. I think the pit exit should have remained the way it was. But anyway, that's just simply my opinion, and everybody's got one of those and they're welcome to have it. So, it's just, I guess, a sign of the times. And with MotoGP expanding into so many different countries, now with 22 races, like we thought it was a lot when it was 16 back when I was doing it, it was sort of 14 before that and, 12 before that. So, it's a busy time, and, television rights, the money, all of that sort of stuff is considered. It's not just where the circuit is and what the facilities are there that's under consideration for MotoGP.
Yeah, now talking about TV rights and things like that, have you ever heard of the Outernet, mate? You probably haven't down in Horsham, mate.
No.
With the cows don't really talk about it. Well, the Outernet it's an immersive race day. So there's screens for Africa. There's a shitload of them, and they're going to be in London. So virtually where that is located is near Tottenham Square, which you come out of the underground, the railway system, and there's all these screens there. So they'll be live over the weekend for Assen. And what they're trying to do is build momentum for Silverstone, which is on, I think, August the 8th and 9th. So I think this is a fantastic thing. There's over 120 million people a year go to this Outernet to watch whatever sporting event is happening around the world. I would imagine right now they've got the World Cup, some sort of World Cup showing on it. But this is a great thing for Silverstone, even though they get massive crowds there. These are people who work in London and get off the subway each day or the underground, and go to work, and they're sitting there looking at this massive screen of some big bloke, with an onboard camera with his knee hanging out, dragging around the circuit, So I think it's a great thing that they're doing, and MotoGP hopefully are behind this adventure because putting it on show to the masses And there'd be a lot of people coming around that train area, that Tottenham Square, mate, every day. So I just think it's a fantastic thing, and kudos to the people who are actually putting this into work, mate. It's fantastic.
Yeah, certainly didn't know that, but it's just putting it out there, isn't it, to not only the motorsport fans, but just all walks of life and everyday people around the city. Yeah, that's amazing. Certainly didn't know that, but it's just simply massive advertising base.
It is. It is. It's 100%. I've never seen anything like it. So I'm going to try and find it this weekend on the internet and see if I can find out anything and just see how big the screens are and whatnot. But they say it's virtually, it's you can walk around in a circle and it's there. Every screen, everywhere, every corner you look in, there's a screen with a motorbike in there. Hammering down the straight over 300 k's an hour. Fantastic, mate. For people who have never seen it, all it takes is a woman to come out of there and say, tell her husband, say, let's go to Silverstone this weekend. Then it's done its job, hasn't it? So
Yeah.
good on it, mate. I think it's fantastic. Anything to do with motorcycle racing and putting your best foot forward is a great thing in my book. Now, mate, talking about knees scraping along the ground, Aegis, mate, he lost his knee pad. Have you ever been in a position where that's happened, mate?
Yeah, mate. Bugger. It's a real bugger. You're sort of grazing your knee, because we used to use them a lot back in the old days, if you like. We had leather ones, which I way preferred to the new plastic ones, because the plastic ones were slippery, where the leather ones, I've said before, you could tell if old mate in front of you was having a hard time with his front end, because he's really pushing on his knee when the leather starts smoking, so he's struggling with the front. Was a telltale sign. You get information from behind. But yeah, I did lose one on a few occasions, especially in the early days when we had things duct taped together and all that sort of stuff before technology invented that ripper Velcro that you need the screwdrivers to get the things off with. You just can't use your knee the way you use it, and it's instinctive. It becomes instinctive to use your knee, and it's really hard to ride without one. And I felt for Senna when that happened, because it just handicaps you. You just can't do what you were doing.
Yeah, and you're right. The riders are so used to it now; they don't know any other way to ride. It puts your whole equilibrium out of proportion when you drop. You're used to this thing, your knee being on the ground with your elbow, and all of a sudden, ouch! It doesn't hurt. It doesn't work that way anymore.
Yeah, it's going to get hot.
That
It's
was a
going to
great
wear
race.
through.
That was a good race though. The Moto2. What'd you think of that one?
Yeah, absolute ripper. And Brno, it's a brilliant track, and you can see the elevation is amazing, and the acceleration out of those tight chicanes and things like that. And it's a real pleasure to ride that place. So Moto2 bike for, I think, Brno is probably nearly the perfect package. So we'll see how the 850s go next year.
Yeah, 100%. And it's good to see a check on the rostrum, mate. That would have been fantastic for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Moto3, mate?
Hard to pick that one, but, it's just great the way they go, and the shenanigans in the qualifying and so forth, and having to get a draft and all that. And even the MotoGP boys were doing a bit of that there on Saturday. And, I always reckon you're better off to just put your head down and go for it. And I've said before, you'll incidentally pick up some drafts. If everybody's on the track having a go, you're going to come across a draft. But if nobody's having a go, you're never going to get a draft, so you've got to do it on your own anyway.
There we go. It's like it's week in, week out with them now, isn't it? They're just relying on that draft,
Yeah, like I said, they're brainwashed that they can't do the lap unless they've got a draft. So they've got to set themselves up to get a draft, and then they waste the time, and some of them missed out the other week, and that, the championship leader doesn't get better than 18th on the grid because he didn't take off in time is stupid.
Yeah, 100%. Now, mate, have you been keeping up with the girls, the women's world championship? events?
Not so much, but
Very hard to get, mate. Like even if you try to access it on YouTube or on the internet, they really don't punch out a lot. They tell you about if you punch it into Google or whatever, they'll tell you about who is in the championship, but they don't have results and things like that. It's ridiculous.
well, if you weren't so scungy, you get on the World Superbike website, worldsbk.com, and you join up there for your Euros. And apparently old Moth Pocket Scotty can't get his hand in that deep.
Yeah,
Anyway,
right,
I watch.
Speedway rider.
I've been keeping
Grand
up with
Prix
it on
tomorrow,
there.
mate.
So Taylor Ralph, she's going all right. She's sort of around that 10th and 9th and sometimes 7th and stuff like that. So, but the experience in front of her, Anna Carrasco, and by the way, she was at the, I think she raced Supersport the other week. So I sort of missed that. And Maria Herrera, they've got a lot of road racing experience. So, you know.
Yeah, I like Herrera.
They're the guns, and there's a few others, but they're getting up to speed, which is good. And good on Taylor for at least having a go, and she's given it a good go.
Yeah, I over to Speedway, mate. Not much to report on Track Yak. They did have a meeting. It was virtually washed out before the meeting went ahead. They had to move all the bikes out of the pits because the whole bays were flooded. Like, I mean, I'm talking up to your knees in water and in Poland. But anyway, they got it going. The track was, obviously wet and terrible, but they got the meeting done after a few hours because of the thunderstorms. And Bartosz Marslik won it, the world champion. So he's back up wearing the gold jacket again. So there's a fair few rounds to go, just like MotoGP. So anything could happen in Speedway, mate. The injuries that they get, not because they don't just ride in the Grand Prix series, they ride for clubs. Anyway, in that particular Grand Prix, 2 Australian riders went out. They had an accident, hit the fence, the first turn bend, and Jack Holder broke his hand, and Jason Doyle didn't come off much better. He didn't break any bones, but he's getting a bit older, old Jace. So I think he's around 40 now. So it just takes a bit longer to get back into it. So anything could happen in the Speedway Grand Prix. We've lost Dan Bewley, who was one of the greats. One of the I thought had the best chance of winning this year. He went out, and this is all in club racing, mate. So you've got to, because we don't get paid as much as you MotoGP freaks, we have to keep riding each and every day to pay the bills, mate.
Yeah, well, that's sort of
I'm
really
going to
can't
put you on
say
one
much
too,
to that, but I know how hard you guys try and the conditions you have to race in, and moving from country to country and all around Europe, and sort of pack up your bike in the van and off to the next country and unpack it and sort of do it. Didn't you do it a few times a week?
Yeah, you had to. Especially in England, where if you ride in the British League or the National League, you'd go to they're like smaller little municipality tracks, if you will. They're just little greyhound circuits, and they got a speedway track on the inside of them. So tracks weren't brilliant. The fencing wasn't brilliant. The conditions weren't brilliant. I mean, you blokes are whinging about Phillip Island toilets. You want to see some of the showers that we went into, mate? Freezing cold fucking showers, and horrible in
I didn't whinge
cold.
about Phillip Island toilets.
Well, that's
Some others might have.
That was one of the whinging points, mate. This is
Right.
why they wanted to change locations. But anyway, mate, what else is happening out there, mate, in your world?
Well, Bullock is just cleaning up in World Superbikes, and Ollie Bayliss isn't going too bad in World Supersport, so that's the main things. Carter Thompson in the sport bike, one of the lesser classes in the World Superbike, World Supersport, women's World Championship racing. So Carter's going good, and good to see Jacob Rulston having a crack in the Moto 2 as well. So he's been back. So he's racing in what's he in the Moto 2 in the European Series, I think. So he's getting a good lot of experience, and certainly not out of the game as a replacement.
Troy Herfus.
Yeah,
leading the what do they call those bikes
the
over there?
baggers, the Harleys.
Magnus, yeah, the Harleys with the panniers and stuff on there. I don't rate that, mate. That looks ridiculous. I mean,
Bad
you
boy
don't see it.
Iannone was on one the other week, I think.
Oh, righto.
One of those guys, Andre Iannone, one of them, yeah.
Yeah, righto. So hopefully, within a show or two, we might have our American correspondent join us, mate, with some bits and bobs around the American scene for both motocross and road racing as well. So hopefully we can negotiate an appearance for one of our own over there, mate.
Yeah, we might be able to do that. We'll see how we go, but we'll try and get a more complete show together with more information for everybody and cover everything instead of talking about rules and debating what's right and what's wrong. But anyway, they're making progress with all that stuff, so that's got to be a good thing for the future.
Well, it has to be, and I know a lot will change next year, as far as the 850 and the Pirellis coming into it. So there's changes all around. As far as for a rider, you're virtually on a new bike, a new rubber underneath you, and new rules hopefully that make the racing maybe just have a little bit more common sense out there.
Yeah, and don't forget, Top Rat Razgatlioglu will be back on his beloved Pirellis from his World Superbike days. He'll know the Grand Prix tracks that he didn't know from not going there on World Superbikes, and it'll be a new bike, being the 850 for everybody. So I think this year's been a great learning and setup year for Top Rat to maybe execute more of his talent next year in the MotoGP class, which is probably difficult. Well, obviously, it's the most difficult class in the world.
Yeah. Look, it was sad to see a photo during the week with Quadraro sitting down with his head in his hands, just saying, "I've done everything I possibly can, and nothing is working." I mean, that's a sad display for Yamaha, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but that's just where sometimes the manufacturer lands. I mean, we've seen Honda do it in World Superbike, MotoGP. At some stage, generally they'll all go through a lull. And certainly we didn't expect Aprilia to jump from the bottom to the top of the standings last year. That was in the constructors, I think it was, yeah. So it just develops that way, and sometimes it can be up to the head of the team, as in the development team in Japan or Italy or wherever they might be, in Austria if it's KTM. It just depends who's at the helm is part of it as well. And Yamaha have been historically a little bit conservative in really putting it on the line. Like, we haven't seen too many V4s blow up on the circuit and stuff like that because they just don't want that. That's just the worst advertising you can get.
Okay, Kev, before I let you go, mate, give me a top three for Assen.
Márquez, Ogura, Bagnaia. I reckon that's the way to go.
Okay, well, I've gone Ogura, and I'm putting Bezzecchi in there because he will bounce back. He'll be a bit pissed off with stuff that's been happening to him over the last couple of weeks. And I'm going to put Marc Márquez in third, mate, because if he doesn't win it, he'll be there somewhere.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the show, viewers. Thanks very much for joining us. If you need to ask us any questions, please do via Facebook or Instagram. And Kev, I will see you next week, mate, after Assen. I'll be on the lounge all weekend, mate.
Good on you, Scotty. Thanks. I'll see you then. Thanks, folks.